you could say of equivalent intensity in relation to commercial lands of C2. So there's not looking to be any negative impacts to adjacent property values. There would also need to be a 12-foot buffer created along the southern boundary of the property based on the zoning ordinance for R3 and R8, which is the medium residential, which we're discussing today, in residential agriculture industry. So basically what we're saying is it's going to fit in the overall character. It's not going to have any negative adverse effects, but a 12-foot buffer will be needed. Item number 3, whether the property to be affected by the proposed amendment can be used as currently zoned. This area does have established commercial land use as a character. The subject property could be developed as commercial if the landowner desired. Number 4, would there be any impact or burden placed on existing streets, schools, sewer, water resources, police, and fire? Currently, there's already municipal water and sewer, so there would not be a burden to provide those services. No impact is expected for the public infrastructure, including Fanny Schools, Blue Ridge Public Works. Based on feedback from representative department heads, there's no belief that there's going to be any impact to those services. This is what I'm trying to get around to. So no impact to police or what police either. Now, the developer will be responsible for moving water and sewer pipes on the subject property. As stated in zoning ordinance, no buildings can be constructed above water or sewer lines in the city. So there's already been mentioned, I believe, that existing sewer water will be moved because the building will have to go on top of it if it's not. If you're interested, attached to this analysis is also the trip generator. You know, it's just saying expectations of 7.32 trips per day per dwelling unit, 50% entering, 50% exiting. You know, based on this, there's an estimate of 615 total trips per day based on this analysis, but, you know, based on traffic engineers analysis, but, you know, that's always subjective. With the subject property owner proposed amendment being in conformity with the policies intended for the adopted joint comprehensive plan for Fanny County and the cities of Blue Ridge and Fayetteville and Morganton as amended. The joint comprehensive plan, which you have attached as Exhibit C, shows the subject property is planned to be future commercial. However, as we mentioned before, you know, it would not be out of the ordinary to have a residential piece of property in this location because we don't feel like there's going to be any difference in intensity of use than what's already there with commercial. See, to mitigate traffic impacts to local streets and to ensure residents are within near proximity to job. Okay. So there was some mention in the comprehensive plan that one of the desires for the city of Blue Ridge is to have workforce housing. This housing would meet part of these needs. This housing development will be part of the Georgia Department of Community Affairs Housing Tax Credit Program, which subsidizes the upfront development costs in order to create market rate quality development with affordable rental rates for those with low and moderate income. So it would fit into the city's goal of the comprehensive plan to provide workforce housing. Number 6, whether there are other conditions or transitional patterns affecting the use and development of subject property if applicable, which gives grounds either for approval or disapproval of the proposed amendment. While the proposed R3 rezoning would create a small little island of more intense development than that of the surrounding area, as we mentioned, we don't believe the multifamily, based on the houses, will really impact the overall character based on the potential intensity of use, as you can see with commercial. So in conclusion, the recommendation is that the requested R3 rezoning be approved based on the conditions mentioned here. It's the proposed rezoning and development would not introduce a character that does not already exist in residential. We have once again mentioned there's commercial and residential right up against each other. It would reduce rezoning would reduce the potential land use intensity from commercial to residential. No burden is expected in regards to the school system, water, sewer, or police services. While it does not conform to the future development map, the subject property, though it doesn't meet within the future development map, we don't believe it's going to make much of a negative impact. We think it should go forward. So, I'm sorry if I kind of rambled through that, but it's different when you look back over through other people's words, and I read through it a few times, but still, when you get through it, it sounds different.
Does anyone here have any questions?
I have one, more out of curiosity than anything else. How, if they can be that specific about traffic flow,
Okay.
why can't they be more specific about additional students in schools and what have you? Like, how do we know you get 84 units? Surely some of those folks are going to have kids that are going to be going to the public schools.
Right.
So we're just saying it won't be that many that would be an impact that just get absorbed.
I actually don't have a complete answer for that. The developer.
I can give you a partial answer to it.
Do you want to wait till
Sure.
you're presenting and then
Sure.
open it up? Okay.
But yeah, I cannot give a complete answer. to
I'm
that.
just curious.
I don't know if he can talk to the school system or any of those individuals. I know.
I would assume, and that was one of my questions, the city's not offering any tax breaks, are they?
Yeah.
Okay, so there'll be taxes paid, which some of that goes to the streets, the school system, and so they'll benefit on that
Yeah,
side.
I'm not arguing, I just.
No, I just
curious.
Well, to answer your question, an interesting fact, information that I've received from another board that I sit on, is that the county has lost in the neighborhood of 20% of their children because of a lack of affordable housing. So there's a void in the schools right now that maybe this will fill.
And some of these may simply be relocated too from where they're at now, something.
Sure.
That's exactly right,
And
to a
just,
better housing. Yeah.
sorry. And just for what's worth, to me, these numbers seem very high for Blue Ridge, obviously. As in terms of like 7.32 trips in and out a day.
I can't
So,
completely speak to that, but I will say that, these are estimates and, estimates based on several studies across the country, so I would expect your view is not without merit.
Yeah, I would say, given our proximity to downtown and the school system, it would probably be fewer trips, I would guess. Just,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, it
I
seems
think-
to me we're in town. To me, you could pick a better location for
No, I think the impact would be
development.
much less than what's listed.
I would call this well on the
I
upper
agree.
end of the amount, so.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
At this point, I would like to open the public hearing portion of the meeting, and we're going to allow the applicant to 10 minutes.
All right, 10 minutes. I have a couple boards here. I'm just gonna set them up over here.
Starting now.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like that's like a bomb, like we should all be getting out of here, but I don't know how these are gonna stand. Let's put them up like this. So I do also, afternoon board, my name is Philip Searles. I'm the president of the Beverly J. Searles Foundation, the developer applicant for the site. And I do want to start off with my sincere gratitude for Cindy Treble, Greg Arnold, for contributing your time and talents into this development. It has been our intention from day one that we not only are helping solve a critical workforce housing need in Blue Ridge, but we want to create something that is of Blue Ridge. A lot of developers, maybe building hotels, for instance, have a plan, they do their plan, they plop it anywhere it goes, without really consideration of the local population, the local flavor of the community. Our intention has always been that we want to be good neighbors, members of every community we serve in, and therefore try to take a little extra effort to make sure that our development, our design is reflective of our community as a whole. That being said, I do have a couple boards here. One that has our logo on. Actually, these are all shots of developments that we have developed here in Georgia using this exact same program. One of the concerns people always have is the quality of construction that we're doing. I would ask anybody to tour any of our communities. I think the closest one to us right now is in Gainesville, Georgia, which is the upper left-hand column, or the upper left-hand picture. That is a courtyard shot of a property in Myrtle Terraces, where we won a national award for our collaboration with Burnell University with our senior citizens in that population. I would also take a second here to answer some of the questions. So the trips, they do these trips based on, they have like different studies that they go over, but if you think about it, you have a family of 4, which is what they're going to be basing an average off of. You have jobs for the mother and the father each have jobs, and each of the kids go to school. That's 8 trips right there. To and from school, to and from school, to and from work, 8 trips. So that's where they're getting it from. So it sounds heavy, but it's also when you're logically thinking about it, it's not like going to and from work is 1 trip. That's considered 2 trips for them. But one of the reasons why we love this site so much so that we actually bought the dirt already is because we actually have 2 access points to the highway. Very clean, close access points that take us out. Take one of them, we have no traffic. We're not impeding any schools. We're not impeding any downtown commutes. We're right into the highway. The other one, we do go by a school, but again, it's a very quick turn, right turn out of our property, right turn on, and we're going to be at the highway as well. If we do actually are able to go forward with funding, I plan on working with one of your city council members, Chrissy Kay, who has interest in what's called a Rails to Trails grant, potentially making the railroad line where you can actually still keep it as a railroad. At least it has like kind of the pavement in there, so you can still keep your cars going.
It's called Rails by Trails.
Rails by trails. And so you'll end up having a pedestrian trail.
Can
Our
I ask
intention would be.
one question?
Yes, sir.
Going back to the traffic, is there going to be the possibility of putting a traffic light where Boardtown hits the highway?
I would recommend, where Boardtown hits the highway, so that would be a GDOT discussion. I can inquire with GDOT.
Because I travel that daily.
I don't take a left onto that from, yeah.
John, I will say I've talked to them in the past, and I don't think that's a possibility right
Even
now.
with this much going on.
Yeah, I mean, we can revisit that, but I think that's something maybe the city would have.
Or maybe make it a right turn only out of there instead of,
I only do right turns and then hang at you up by the New Bojangles, and then to come back and go back south.
That's something to consider.
The other question about the school, the reason why it's really hard to determine, and Cindy hit the nail on the head, or Brian hit the nail on the head, it's potentially people could be relocating from within district to this community. You might have families that have been living with their parents, or you might have families living in the basement of a rental home or something like that, that are staying within the community, so it is hard to actually make that determination. Also, a number of our residents actually already exist in the community because they are currently living with the housing authority. So the impact on the schools is actually a little bit lower than what we considered a brand new construction, looking outwards, trying to bring people in from our primary market area, which, just to put on the record, our primary market area is Fannin County, that's it. Our market study that we're turning into the state has borders of Fannin County. So in our roughly 1,000 units that we own in Georgia, 75% of our residents move in from within 10 miles of where they live 10 miles before where they move to our community. And because we mostly do seniors, the other 25% are actually from out of state. They're generally the parents of adult children in the community that want to be closer to the grandkids. So you don't see a tremendous migration of people coming in from one place or another, but generally what it is just going to be a kind of like an easing of overburdened populations like within this community. That is what I believe.
I see another angle on the workforce housing in the schools too is, and Lane's more familiar with this than I, because she's did the leadership Fannin is, but the Fannin County goal is to keep their kids in Fannin County. So the whole school program is really tailored toward work, programs that are locally for the community, which I think is amazing. So it may take years and decades for it to really trickle down, but we can keep these kids here. They can live here, they can prosper here. I think it's going to go a long way toward the future.
We want to provide housing opportunities at all levels. In the past, I've spoken about this. I've spoken with Chris Hall over at Habitat in the past. Our goal is that if we're funded, we're going to be donating $5,000 a year to Habitat, and I can putting this on record so everybody hears this. That will be used for upgrades within the homes that they're building. In return, they're going to be coming to our property a few times a year and be giving training sessions for our residents on how to become homeowners. We believe that affordable housing should be transient housing, it's not a permanent solution, but a temporary solution for our population. And that we need to encourage and provide resources for our tenants to become homeowners in the community. So we partner with organizations like Habitat to try to get this to become the next level. I've had discussions on the difference between affordable housing and affordable warehousing. I think a lot of developers do the warehousing side, and I think that's the wrong way to approach this problem in America. Other than that, I won't take more than 10 minutes. So the other storyboard here, done by Cindy, this is, and I'll bring this up a little bit. And if you guys want to take a look at this,
I think she stole some of my design.
so what this is, these were actually affordable housing developments from places like California, Colorado, Montana.
Some of them are.
Some of them are.
Some of the details are.
These are, kind of think of it as like the brain swelling of what our development will be, right? It's not going to be, we might not have these exact same things, but this is going to be the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish, because from our design team, this is Blue Ridge, and that's what we want to do. There's a number of design features in here that we can do within our housing structure. I spoke last year about how the financing works generally, and just kind of a quick overview. The foundation as the developer owner of the housing, we are the ones that get the subsidy. That subsidy becomes equity in our property. So we're going to be putting down, with construction costs, please come down, anywhere maybe up to 70% of our construction costs, our entire development costs will be funded through the sale of the tax credits.
Yeah, they built the two in the lower right.
Okay. And because of that, we can build a market grade type of development, but because we have so much equity that's coming through the sale of tax credits, our mortgage is much smaller, therefore we can afford to charge a lower rent. So in return for getting those tax credits from the state, we have to commit that we're going to be participating in this program for 15 years, which means that a one-bedroom unit will start this year, I think around $600 and some odd dollars. And that ballpark range around $600 a month. Other things to keep in mind about this program, leases have to be a year. You cannot do short-term rentals. It is very much against the law. So there will never be an opportunity for this development to become a big Airbnb. When we do the development, we'll actually sign a 30-year LRC. That's a land use restriction. So no matter what happens to the property, it will always be an affordable development. After 15 years, and this is another thing about this program versus other programs that we've seen in the community. I think we have a HUD 221D4. I think it's maybe USDA 538 on the other side of the highway. We have some public housing in the community as well that's been using government direct funding in the past. The tax credit program has an automatic mechanism that in 15 years you can actually take it back into the state to start the process all over again. and rehab your property, and this isn't listed on the pig, it's $25,000 in each unit, and then more funding on the outside. So after 15 years, we'll be building we'll be rehabbing the entire property. So that's one of the interesting things about the tax credit program is that we actually have a mechanism to be maintaining this asset for a very long term. So it's not going to be something that is built and maybe forgotten about, on the side of the hill or something like that. Or it's not going to be dependent directly on government funding to where they just don't really have the resources to make those kinds of improvements every few years. So I've been doing this for 14 years. I think it's a wonderful program. We're very interested, we're very excited about being part of Blue Ridge. So thank you very much for your time. I'll go with my
Does anyone have
comments.
any questions?
Uh,
No, not yet, not.
Speaking to the point about speaking to the point of maintenance, I mean, obviously that is, you guys maintain it for those, through the life of it. And 15 years down the road, you basically revamp it, freshen it up. Give it
So
a-
not only are we going to be revamping it at the end of 15 years, but because we have multiple layers of financing, we have the state agency that's allocating the credits, we have a bank that's giving us a mortgage, we have an equity investor that's actually putting up money to buy those credits. We will have, you have a number of inspections. On average, the state's going to inspect our property every 2 years. The equity investor will inspect the property every 1 year. I've gotten dinged in the past for having a faceplate to an outlet be cracked. So they're very persnickety about the maintenance of the properties. On top of that, we're personal believers in the broken glass theory. That if you see a broken window in the neighborhood, it means it's okay to have a broken window, so the next person parks their car in the yard. And then before you know it, you're not in a good neighborhood anymore. So we do maintain our property to a high standard. One of the things that we're going to be exploring, and we've done in other properties, is have not a split roof, but the front facade facing out everybody will be a pitched roof. Behind that will be a flat roof. We'll put condensing units up there. The reason why I put condensing units up there is we actually leave more space for landscape architecture. It's not as much of an eyesore or a noise, or you have noise pollution from the AC units. And then in certain communities where theft is a problem, by taking the AC condensing units off the ground, you disincentivize the idea of those units walking off the property.
And because this is so government related, so to speak, are you bound by who you can hire to do maintenance, that sort of thing? Or-
No, there's, the state agency will have a requirement, they will approve on who can manage the asset as in the company. Traver's already been approved by the state agency to be able to manage these types of properties. Traver will be managing these properties. Or the housing authority would not, Traver, but the housing authority will be managing these communities. They could hire anybody as long as they pass standard background checks, citizenship checks, that kind of stuff.
I think that's it. Why would you allow that faceplate to get cracked?
I know, it's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
15 years wasn't enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it is a great program. I'm a firm believer in it. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't, because I think this actually is one of the best opportunities for Georgia citizens to have a good quality of life after living in fixed income.
Let's see if there's any opposition.
No, just a question.
Go ahead.
So I'm your neighbor, we spoke on the phone.
Oh, you're Karen.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you, yeah.
Nice to meet you as well, Karen Stevens.
Yeah,
Are you able to come up there?
yeah.
So the question, I just have a couple questions. I know that you didn't have an exact number before.
Yes, ma'am.
Has it already been determined how many units it'll be?
84 units.
84, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then how many people can live in each unit? Is there a
It's a
limit?
family, so we'll have, do you know the actual numbers?
What's the max
Oh.
that can go in each unit?
It's a family, so like
How many bedrooms? There you
so
go.
we're gonna have, I think, 21 bedrooms
No, in each unit.
in each unit. So yeah,
It can be
well,
each unit. It depends on the bedroom size.
yeah, so I mean, we'll have 21 bedroom units. So that would be, 1 or 2 people, unless they're gonna,
I think it's 1.5 persons per bedroom is the way that they figure the calculation.
Yeah, well, I guess they do it, like, I don't know if they're coming in as 2-bedroom units, 3-bedroom units.
there
or
will be
4.
2s and 3s.
We have-
You can only have 1 family on a lease though.
Right.
And we actually, so one of the things we do is our maintenance does quarterly inspections in each of the units. It's kind of as an example, we in the past used companies like Water Source, Water Signal. We see if there's like a leak in the property, so we'll have maintenance actually going through looking for toilets that are running. If we have any noticed lease violations, we make the accommodations to let the people, to let the residents know that they're in a lease violation, it's on the record, and then if it continues, we go through the eviction process.
And I think me and you touched briefly on the phone, I just wanted to
Yes.
kind of touch base in person on the qualifications of the person. So let's say somebody qualifies to live there, right? And then maybe they don't work in Blue Ridge anymore, maybe they're just living there. What is the, do they requalify each lease term, or
So,
how's that
well,
work?
I mean, if they're not paying their rent, then we.
No, I mean, like, they move in,
Mhm.
it's 600 or whatever it is a month, right?
Yeah.
Whatever number. And then they're there a year,
Mhm.
but they don't work in Blue Ridge anymore.
They work like, let's
They
say,
work in
Jasper.
LJ or
LJ,
Jasper,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, I mean, we can't control if somebody, like, we can't force somebody that's only for employees who are living in Blue Ridge. We would expect that when because there's housing in LJ and
So there's
Jasper.
not like a
But there's not, yeah, there's
a
not a
requalification.
requirement. It's a violation of fair housing to be able to require somebody that says, like, you have to work in this community to live in this community.
Got it. And then the other question is either because it is so close to school, and because I personally have a minor, you know,
Mhm.
is there background checks, or how are these people evaluated as far as?
So all residents go through background checks. Any violent criminals are completely disallowed, there's nothing in there. Any
Okay.
children, any criminals against children, completely disallowed, not allowed there.
Because it's so close to the school too?
No,
Or
because,
just because it's
no,
bigger?
because I'll have children who live in that property, and I have people who live in that property.
Right, okay.
We're not gonna have we would never allow a violent person. One of the requirements also is that everybody has to be on the lease. So it's not gonna be like, if Marshall is my life partner and he's on the lease, but I'm a convicted felon or something like that, that I'm not on the lease. If we're living in the unit, we're both on the lease.
And parking, is it
Two
gonna be
spaces a
gated?
unit. It won't be gated, but one of the things we are actually doing that no one else in Blue Ridge has, is there is one police car here in Blue Ridge that has a tag reader. So basically, when you drive in, you guys have probably seen the police car. It has like little cameras on the backside when you drive by it, because usually the police officer has to type in your license plate. The camera picks it up, automatically reads it, and will tell the police officer if they have an open felony or an open charge. We'll actually have one of those cameras at our properties.
At the entrance or
At the
something?
entrances,
Got it.
so anybody who comes into our property that has two things. One, if somebody comes in and they have a warrant, it goes automatically to the police department. The other thing is if there is an instance of crime, we can actually go back through and see the license plates that did come in that evening and determine which ones are not residents of the community.
Got it.
Yeah.
Those were my questions.
Yes,
No
ma'am.
other issues.
Those are good questions.
That's a great question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have the unit counts if you want.
Yeah, and if you want the unit counts, we can share them with you. Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, I think you answered it, the 84 units, and then there's so much per, if it's one family and there's a mom, a partner, or a dad, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's only so many kids can go in a 3-bedroom, so many people. in
So many
many
people can go
bedrooms.
into a unit, yeah. Yes, ma'am. You want me to sit down or hang out up there? Close the public hearing.
Do we have any questions?
Mr. Arnold. Please.
My question to you is I'd like for y'all to explain better about the relationship between the Blue Ridge Housing Authority, because you said they were going to be managing.
Oh, yes.
So what does that mean that they're going to be managing it? Because they don't have the resources, I don't believe, to do all the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. do they?
So that's a great thing. It's a great point.
Just want to point out, we are out of time, but I have no problem with extending, if that's okay with the rest of the board.
Because I saw on a Facebook page post where you said something that they would actually take complete control of it after 30 years.
Yes. So what that means is that, one of the good things about so even if whoever's managing the asset, we will have in our budget payroll. So we'll actually have, and I don't know the exact number, I guess it's probably going to be $140,000 to $150,000, $160,000 of payroll for people who are working at the property. So if Traver doesn't have the staff, he can hire the staff. He can find people who will hire them to be the maintenance at the property, who can be leasing at the
And
property.
they'll work with the Blue Ridge Housing.
And they'll work for the Blue Ridge Housing Authority. Now, what our intention is that we're actually going to be taking, so the Blue Ridge Housing Authority has 48 units in the city. We're going to actually take those residents for the time being. We're going to give them the option to go back at another date and time. But we've all seen what the Housing Authority stock looks like. I think Traver and the Housing Authority themselves have done a wonderful job with the resources they have. However, for them to do actually rehabs, what they have to do is actually find accommodable housing for their tenants, which I think we can all agree doesn't exist in Fannin County. So what we're doing is we're actually giving the opportunity for the Housing Authority to kind of vacate their property, so they can actually do all the rehab that they want to do and allow residents, if they want, to move back in. But we feel like the Housing Authority has been such a good, long-standing partner in the community that in 30 years, we'll be giving the property to them. So like I said earlier about how this is a 15-year program, year one, we're going to finance it, we're going to develop it, we're going to have a mortgage. Let's say the mortgage is this. At the end of 15 years, we're going to rehab it, we're going to pay down some of the remaining mortgage, now the mortgage is this. After the next 15 years, they're going to be rehabbed again, and now the mortgage is the smallest it's been, most likely to a point where the Housing Authority can guarantee that mortgage. That's one of the big issues with, we all go through underwriting when we get a mortgage on our house. At that point in time, the foundation is stepping aside, and the Housing Authority would own the asset, because we have seen
So at 30, at year 31, at the end of 30 years, the Housing Authority is responsible for maintaining that property. And
they would still be under the tax credit. They would still be under the tax credit program. So they're going to be maintaining it for the next 30 years. My
So
hope.
do they have to rehab after the next 15 years?
They don't have to, but they can, and it's the easiest way to do it. It's the most economically intelligent way to do this, because there's really no other mechanism out there that allows you to get this much equity to then continue rehabbing and dealing for 15 years.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Just to throw out there, just as an example, there are private developers out there that after like the 15 or 30 years, what they do is they just kind of kick everybody out. They say, the market's really nice now. We're gonna, we have $5 million of debt. We can raise the rents and take $20 million in debt out. So we're gonna do that and just collect $15 million. That's one of the reasons why we want to ensure that never happens, and that's why it'd be a Housing Authority asset.
All right, I'd like to close the public hearing portion of the meeting. All right, do we have a motion that's up to Dale and Brian?
I will make a motion that we change parcel BR03-033 from C2 to R3 for the purpose of affordable workforce housing.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? We've already discussed. Brian?
Yes.
Dale? I vote yes. So it's passed.
Thank you.
Second public hearing of this is May 17th at 5 p.m. At this point, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Second.
Yes. Correct.
Um,